Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome from St. George's Park, where over the next 3 days the 2019 Futsal Home Nations Championships will be taking place. This is the fourth staging of this event, won for the last 2 years by England, and they will begin their defence a little later on this evening against Scotland. Getting us up and running, the first match of the tournament, due to start shortly, is between Wales and Northern Ireland. There are two matches tomorrow. England play Northern Ireland, Scotland against Wales, and it all draws to a close on Sunday. Scots against Northern Ireland, followed by England against Wales, and we'll be having the respective national anthems for you in just a moment. I'm sure the sides don't need any identification, both wearing their traditional colours. Wales in red, Northern Ireland in green, and we'll be with you just a moment after the national anthems.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem for Northern Ireland. So our two teams are now exchanging the fair play handshake ahead of kickoff. We'll run through the two-team lineups for you.
Two beautifully observed anthems there. We'll give you the team news in just a moment. We're fighting with the tannoy system here, but the team news for Northern Ireland, last year's tournament hosts. They'll be looking to emulate their impressive win over the Welsh in Newry a year ago. Head coach Johnny Michael welcomes back Chris Donnelly. He's been out for 18 months with an ACL injury. And skipper Adam Barr becomes his country's most capped player, getting his 23rd international futsal cap this evening. Connor Miller is the leading scorer. And there are first-time call-ups for Josh Lowry and Ryan Dabbs, who incidentally plays his futsal in Wales for Cardiff University. Northern Ireland squad. Wales come to St. George's Park in good form, having pulled off an impressive 8-1 victory in Austria as recently as last month. 10 of this 14 were involved against the Austrians, including backup goalie Charlie Philpott. Look out for him later. He actually scored a goal on his international debut 2 days before his 18th birthday. Regular number one Lee Jones returns between the sticks. Adam Orme of Swansea University skippers the side, and the other three outfield players are all teammates at Cheshire Futsal. Josh Dorwood is the only representative in this squad of reigning Welsh champions, Cardiff University. I'm Dave Brayscale. I'm delighted to be joined on the gantry here at St George's Park by FA Councillor, Chairman of the FA Futsal Committee and good chum. A very warm welcome to Graham Dell.
Hi Dave, good evening. It's again a pleasure to be doing the commentary with you.
What can we expect then over these 3 days?
Well, I think the one thing that you can be guaranteed of is that they will be close-fought competitions, as all of the home nations since the inaugural tournament a few years ago always have been. It'll be interesting to see all four countries trying to pit their wits against each other. I think, and no bias on my behalf, but it will be England probably will be the favourites. It will be very challenging for them, of course, because all of these countries will want to bring their A game with them in order to demonstrate that they're not a million miles away perhaps from where England are. Equally, it will be challenging for England to make sure that they can maintain their confidence and maintain the style of play without being disrupted too much by the battering that I'm sure they're going to get from all three of their visitors.
With all due respect to Northern Ireland and Scotland, before a ball is kicked, you'd imagine the likeliest opponents to possibly unhinge England and dethrone them as two-time champions are possibly the Welsh, who come here, as I say, off the back of that great win in Austria just last month.
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, we know the game of futsal is unpredictable. We also know that some teams start stronger than others. And I would say on paper, yes, probably the Welsh are the strongest opponent, but let's not underestimate any of the others.
If this is a new sport to you, we'll touch on one or two of the nuances of it as we go along. Wales in red, kicking from right to left. A lovely start here and release there. Connor Rogers, the number 14, and goalkeeper Matt McAlane had to be quickly off his line to make the block. Good early threat posed by Wales. They'll be looking to start quickly here. Now an opportunity to break. Ball is played back to Lee Jones. Plays his futsal down on the south coast, the Basingstoke, and a long ball forward. Again, sees Wales get the ball in enemy territory. Good start this by the Welsh.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see for both teams how they've evolved over the last 12 months or so, both playing in qualifying competitions within UEFA, and see what they've learned.
Craig Pritchard to Rogers, now the skipper, Adam Orme. This is a highly skilled, highly technical sport, as you'll see. Although we once again see the Welsh goalkeeper resort to Route 1 tactics.
No shame in that. I mean, that was a tactic that was deployed by the Spanish many years ago, that they had the confidence that if there was no ball to be passed, because of the 4-second count, and for those that are new to the game, that you've got 4 seconds to release it when it comes back into play, and certainly when the goalkeeper's got the ball, just kick it out and have the confidence that you can defend it.
The Northern Irish are struggling to get a foothold, but they do have possession pretty much for the first time, but that is squandered, and once again the red shirts come forward, and there's an effort from Adam Orme into the side netting. Northern Irish have got to be on their mettle here, being put under early threat. 2 20-minute periods this, of course, and whenever the ball goes over the sidelines, the clock stops. That was slack defending. The ball was played in there, and certainly more than a half chance, which went a begging. Jordan Davis could only stick out his knee and the ball goes wide.
And often those opportunities are successful. It'll also be interesting, Dave, as well, for certainly for these two teams in the first game, is about pacing yourself 3 games in 3 days and making sure that you've got enough in the tank when it comes to Sunday, because you may well need that. 14-man
squad, just 5 on the court at any one time, but the coaches, as you'll see, can make rolling substitutions pretty much whenever they want. You see the players on and off at regular intervals. This one's played forward and harmlessly through to Lee Jones, rolls the ball out to Jordan Davis, now to his Cheshire teammate Connor Rogers. There's Pritchard.
And that, of course, Dave, is one of the skill sets of coaches in futsal, is the fact that you've got so much going on an ongoing basis throughout that 20-minute period, constantly changing the personnel, either to work to your advantage or to match up against the opponent. So the brightness of a futsal coach is significantly improved upon that, let's say, of a football coach.
Yes, a number of players are already loosening up just down below us, behind the benches there, getting ready to be introduced into the fray. Usually 3 or 4 minutes we'll see the players switch round. Jordan Davis for Wales, just trying to forge an opening here, and Northern Ireland have the ball. There's the skipper, Adam Barr, plays his futsal in London for Baku United, and for the first time Northern Ireland have a little bit of breathing space in the Welsh half, and they've got a corner.
Yeah, Adam Barr, one of 4 Northern Irish players playing their futsal in England.
Barr just taking his time, and then he'll scoop the ball up. There's an attempt on goal from Connor Miller. That'll be an easy decision for our officials. First foul against
It was an easy decision for one of them, but not for both of them. I'd have thought they'd both blown there.
Pritchard, that's given away, and Jones had to be quickly off his line to clear. Just touch on the aspect of committing fouls, Graham, if you will.
Yeah, so if you commit 4 penal offence fouls, so those that are penalised under the penal code, so a direct free kick. Once you get to 5, then the 5 foul marker will come up, and then every successive foul that's a penal foul within that half is penalised by a 10-metre. And we say unopposed penalty. It's the goalkeeper against the kicker, and you'll see there's 2 penalty marks on the court, one at 6 metres and one at 10 metres, and it's the 10-metre mark. And you can actually take the kick from anywhere along that laterally along that 10-metre mark. But the important thing is that for penal offences 6, 7 and onwards, you get that 10-metre penalty wherever the offence has been committed. Still
goalless. Been up and running for almost 3 minutes now. 3 minutes of ball in play.
It's interesting, the first little spell of Northern Ireland, and bar that ball that's gone out of play, actually they look like they're a team who potentially could hold possession.
It was a little silly from Adam Barr, wasn't it? The ball was already out of play, and he went up like a volleyball right at the net, just lifting the ball away even further away.
I'll never understand the logic in that, because he's given a free kick away, and indeed could in a high level competition would be a yellow card.
Yeah.
You know, and you're less than 4 minutes of play time into the game.
That's a good effort, and well saved, Jordan Davis for Wales. Stinging right footer turned away by Matthew McAlane, one of the Sparta Belfast contingent who have been playing in the Champions League this summer.
They have, and I think they've got some coaching staff from the same club as well, actually.
Valuable experience. Northern Ireland, the hosts a year ago. Come full circle. This is the 4th of the home nations. Another effort for Wales here, and again perhaps these chances going begging may come back to haunt the side in red. That was a lovely ball fizzed in from Jordan Davis. Craig Pritchard couldn't get there. We've come full circle. The first home nations was held 2016 at Cardiff, the Institute of Sport down there, then in Edinburgh 2 years ago. Northern Ireland's turn last year in Newry. Now England the hosts for the first time, looking to defend the title they've won for 2 years. Wales, of course, winning the first one, Graham.
The first one, that's right, yeah. Now, Newry was a great event last year. I mean, I think the key thing with the game is about trying to create the right environment, and you know, we're very blessed here at St. George's because we've got a pitch with one set of pitch markings on it. Newry was a multi-use sports centre where it was a little bit chaotic with lines, but the important thing is creating an environment that looks like futsal, and I think we're getting closer to that with these home nations tournaments as we circle through the evolution to go into the second cycle of the 4 hosts.
Just getting a little fractious down here. Our officials just quietening things down on the Welsh bench. As you'll see, we've got one of the Irish changes on already. Number 7 there, Conor Glenholmes, who plays in Edinburgh for the Futsal Club.
A well-known Scottish futsal club as well. It's interesting here, Wales sticking with a 4. I've got a feeling that he's going to play with groups of 4, but this may well be his strongest 4.
So again, Northern Ireland with a corner routine that no doubt been worked on. Get another opportunity to execute it. coming, we've got the UEFA Euro 2022 qualifiers in January, so all the nations using this weekend as a little bit of a practice opportunity for that. Here's that effort from Glenn Holmes, well wide of the target, and now Wales will ring the changes, 4 on, 4 off.
And set plays are absolutely vital, Dave, in at this level of competition where there's not a great deal between the teams. The important thing is, as it is in football, is to make sure that you execute your set plays to get a definitive outcome. And already we've seen a few wasted opportunities from both teams.
There's Rico Zulkarnain. 7 is Johnny Nelson. That's a famous sporting name, isn't it? Johnny Nelson packs a punch, I'm sure, as that goes out again. The players fiercely contesting these decisions. This means so much to both sides. Zulkarnain turns, but there's a green wall there blocking that attempt. Here come Wales again with Johnny Nelson. Rolls it back to number 3, Warren Hudson. Ball gifted back to Northern Ireland. There's Darius Rui, plays his futsal in Spain.
So one of the key challenges for the viewers here is, if we're thinking about the way the ball is played, and the ball there from Northern Ireland playing from inside to out, and the ball's automatically running away from the recipient player, and he's got very little chance of controlling that ball. So the position of the players without the ball is absolutely vital, more so than the player with the ball.
Tyrrell Webb back to Johnny Nelson. Had an impact since coming on. It's rolled forward to Zulkarnain. A couple of defenders at his back. Now then, nice skills from Tyrrell Webb. Strikes the crossbar. Fierce left-footed drive. Northern Ireland's goal, breathing something of a charmed life at the moment. This will be set up again for Nelson. Loses possession, and now the green shirts can break. An opportunity here for Glenn Holmes. He'll square it.
I think he's missed an opportunity there. It's that bit of hesitation to pass the ball or to take the strike, and I think, in fairness, Glenn Holmes would have been better to try and just take a strike there in front of goal.
Donnelly does like a chat with the officials, doesn't he? Glenn Holmes rolls it to Donnelly. Oh, that's scuffed away by Nelson. I think he was trying to bounce it off the Northern Irish player. It's been good ticket sales. We're expecting pretty much full house signs tomorrow, and indeed on Sunday, when this event will come to a conclusion. Not too many have found their way into the 330 acres of St. George's Park for the opening game so far of this weekend.
Good knowledge, that. I thought you were going to say 330 seats.
I think there's about 600 seats on that far side.
Yeah, we're up to about overall. I think it's somewhere about 350 seats for sale. But by the time you get all the other seats in, it's around about 600 or so. There's a limitation, of course, on the number that we can have in the venue. So from a fire safety point of view,
a couple of flags have been put up on the wall on the far side. The green and white army are here. A number of Welsh supporters here as well. The Welsh development squad played a little earlier on. I'm sure if any of them are watching and indeed listening, they perhaps won't want me to report what happened, but in the interest of fairness, we'd better. England's under-21s defeating them by, it was 10-1. That really was a very, very convincing victory and a wonderful performance from Sean Kitson's side.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's development. I mean, there's no shame in losing games, and Wales have to, as their younger players, will learn from that. And as long as they go out of it having learned, in the same way as the England players will go out of it having had a pretty unanimous victory, is to make sure that they can pick bits from it to realise where they can do better. So it's all part of the progress for both home nations.
If you're just joining us, this is the opening match of this year's Futsal Home Nations. Northern Ireland in green, attacking against Wales in red, 0-0. We have a clock on the top left-hand corner of your screen that ticks down from 20 minutes to 20-minute halves. The clock stops whenever the ball goes out of play. Here for Northern Ireland, they're number 5. Scott Gunn, he plays his futsal up in the northeast of England, in Durham. That's a fierce-looking effort from Zulkarnain just wide. And The number of attempts for Wales are racking up here, Graham.
Yeah, they are, and I think number one, I think they need to do better with them. Number two, I think that they've got to make sure they get them on target, and I think they've had one, which was that came in from that corner, but the rest of them have been wide of the mark, and you may well rue those chances as the game moves on.
It's a little bit robust there. Down goes Warren Hudson, the Welsh number 3, tripped by Chris Donnelly.
I think Donnelly tried to profess his innocence there and then realised that actually, no, he's got no chance.
Our lead official for this one, from England, Ollie Rodriguez-Ballinger. Gordon McCabe from Scotland is the second referee. Bart Urbanski, the third referee, and our timekeeper, keeping it all nicely done for us. Ivaris Lukauskis.
An interesting point on the referees as well, Dave, and worthwhile mention about Ollie Rodriguez-Ballinger, that he started in futsal at a really young age and has continued, and he's got to that level in the same way as Mark Burkett did. And Mark himself, of course, refereed the Futsal World Cup final back in 2014, whenever it was, in Thailand, and Ollie Ballinger is one of those. So this game is not just about developing players and coaches, it's also about developing referees as well, and certainly brings a lot of younger referees into the game.
Scott Gunn with this free kick for Northern Ireland. Both sides have now committed 2 fouls. Wales penned deep and perhaps a little fortunate there to get the ball. The official on the far side, by the way, from Scotland, Gordon McCabe, he's actually done some football lining as an assistant referee in the Scottish Football League, the lower divisions.
Yeah, I think he had a UEFA Champions League appointment, Futsal Champions League appointment a few weeks ago, actually. So, being he's one of their FIFA representatives, of course. But yeah, for the referees, there's great opportunity for them, and this is an interesting attraction as well as we seek to grow the game, not just in England, but I'm guessing across all the home associations, is giving alternative opportunities for referee workforce development.
7 minutes gone, all but a couple of seconds. Still await the first goal of the weekend. Sulkainen, he scuffed that effort. He's got quite a mean dig on him, and he would expect to do a little better there. Northern Ireland ringing the changes. First look, number 20 there, Danny Stapleton coming on. He plays in Manchester. And the skipper, Adam Barr, back on court. Barr, number 4, rolls the ball forward. It's a nice turn, a build-up that promised much, but Ireland have had their pockets picked. Johnny Nelson. Sulkainen. Ball broke nicely to Nelson. Tricky little player. Bags of skill. Twist and a turn and an effort that had to be turned over the top by Matt McAlane in the Northern Ireland goal. It remains 0-0.
Good quick feet there. Interesting. Both coaches are working with groups of 4, so rotating them in the same pack, probably getting the best mix and the blend of players, and making sure that they're matched up against the opposition as well.
Again, as you'll have noted, if you're new to the game, corners a kick in. Sulkainen trying an audacious volley which goes wide. And again, also something you'll have noticed that we've not pointed out. The ball can, of course, go above head high. I know up and down the country there'll be various five-a-side leagues where different interpretations of the rules, where the ball can't go above head high. Here, no such issue. That's gone out for a Welsh ball.
You're talking about that game with the big fluffy tennis ball.
I guess that's something you're constantly battling against, isn't it? If you would mention futsal to the uninitiated straight away, you'd get. Is it similar to five-a-side?
Yeah, listen, over my time involved in the game, and even pro licence or UEFA licensed coaches, you talk to them about futsal and say, is that the same as beach soccer? And they wouldn't have a clue about it. But I think it's generational, Dave. There's certainly a major shift. Over the last 5 to 8 years, you're now seeing a generation of players and coaches who are growing up in the game, both football and futsal, and certainly from a football perspective, who
Oh, a lovely drive there. Sorry to cut you off, Graham. Connor Miller rolled the ball onto his left, and from 20 yards out, let fly, and that had to be turned away by Lee Jones. Had to be on his mettle there, the Welsh keeper.
He's done well there because he's playing in a pair of conventional training shoes, running shoes, which I'm not so sure will be that great for his ankles, but I gather he's got a foot injury and he can only move in something with a bit more cushioning.
Another stinging drive coming in from the Northern Irish. Craig Taylor plays for Belfast United, the number 15, and again another one to add to the impressive number of early saves here by Lee Jones.
So yeah, the point I was making, Dave, was that, you know, players are in the game now and they understand and they know what futsal is. There are coaches who understand and know what futsal is, and there's a massive shift now, of, certainly within football, of futsal being used as that player development tool.
Craig Pritchard. That's gone out on the near side. We were talking off air about the rankings, world rankings, and how tough it is for the home nations to really make strides up there in those world rankings, and obviously, you know, you can only improve your position. Oh, Adam Barr's fallen over there. We'll just keep an eye on this, and I'll come back to the point when the ball goes out, which it may do in just a moment, but kept in by Craig Taylor, who's gone out on the far side. You obviously can only improve your rankings by playing matches and indeed winning matches, and it's been tough for all the home nations just to get through to a major tournament, and I think once one of them can do it and do it successfully, the others will follow. Yeah,
but it's important to note that actually your ranking coefficients are only calculated in official UEFA, for us anyway, for your confederation competition. So you might play a friendly against each other, but these don't count towards the ranking coefficients. And what we're interested in is the UEFA ranking coefficient. So you're quite right. The more successful you become, the more games you play within games that give you ranking coefficient points. And as a consequence, if you're not qualifying into that next peer group, you're going to struggle getting points.
Welsh ball, and a great shot, it's gone in. Jordan Davis with the strike. Half a mind, it might just have been turned in by Craig Pritchard, but we will have that confirmed. In fact, they're giving it to Jordan Davis, a stinging strike, and a little bit of a post-mortem going on at the heart of the Northern Irish defence there.
Yeah, basic rule number one. I mean, the majority of goals in futsal are scored at the far post, so that's where you've got to mark the spare player, and just standing on that far post unmarked. Any ball that comes in, you've just got to get a touch on the end of it, and you'll get some success. And that almost seemed like it was in slow motion after it had taken the hit.
There is Pritchard. .14 is Connor Rogers. I think they've given it to Jordan Davis. I'm not sure if it didn't go in the goal, and when it came out, the rebound, having gone in the goal, was turned back in by Pritchard, but I'm sure the referee held up the number 9. He's given it to Jordan Davis, but we'll tidy that up for you. Wales lead 1-0, and some of these challenges just bordering on the overzealous. That's quite a nasty one there for Adam Orme to deliver.
This is where the referees have to be absolutely on the game, because the game is identified as a non-contact, as far as non-contact it can be. But if it ends up a little bit too like that conventional five-a-side that we're talking about, you lose the ethos of the game. And this is where referees are absolutely vital to maintaining identity and integrity of the game. And if they allow it to become too physical, as they've allowed now, and I think that's an automatic reaction after a team has conceded a goal, you know, the team that scored is going to press, the team that's conceded is going to press as well, and you end up with your heads, and unless the referees take control of it, it ends up getting scrappy and just like five-a-side on the futsal pitch, and that's the bit we need to avoid for identity.
Pleased to see Craig Taylor get back to his feet, and it seems as if he's able to carry on. That's a rather a careless place to lose possession of the ball there, as Rui did, right on the halfway line, and commits the foul.
I'll be surprised if he doesn't get it. I'm not for one for getting players, but yeah, I was going to say he's going to get a yellow for that, because that's pretty deliberate. Not one for getting players booked, but again, it's about game management, and referees have to make sure that they manage the game from the early stages. And again, with such a big roster with players coming on and coming off, if you were to lose a player, it's not so much of an impact as it would be rather in the 11-a-side game.
Took one for the team there, as they say. There wasn't much behind Darius Rui there to prevent Wales moving in on goal. The red shirts come forward again. Wales leading by 1-0, but Adam Orme disappointed with that ball in, and again wholesale changes made by the side in green.
Yeah, for Wales, this is certainly Paul Jones's strongest four. There's no doubt about that.
I beg his pardon, it was Danny Stapleton who was cautioned, number 20. Rui's 21. He's on the court now. It's the first time we've seen him. So Danny Stapleton was the offending player.
Stapleton signed with Manchester in the National Futsal Series. Yet to make an appearance, however, this season. But certainly a bright prospect for Northern Ireland.
Donnelly goes to ground there, and again having a bit of a chat to the referee.
You might know him, Dave, outside of the game. They seem to be talking a lot to each other, don't they?
Northern Irish ball into Rui. Just past the halfway mark in the first half here, the opening game of this Home Nations weekend. Wales leading by 1-0. Northern Ireland hosted the event last year and actually defeated the Welsh 2-0, but Northern Ireland, as they have done in the two previous Home Nations editions, finished on the bottom of the table. So Johnny Michael's squad certainly have something to aim for here. That's given away though, and an opportunity here for Wales. That's lovely skill, and then at the very last second, Craig Pritchard, he'd done the hard work, but the angle was closing in on him all the time, and he put it wide.
Funny out of left foot. Good feet though.
This could be already, I think, perhaps 4 or 5. But
yeah.
Northern Ireland have had 1 or 2 chances of their own, though.
They have done. I think, for me, I think if Wales can just slow the game a little bit, can get control of the ball and start to move the ball rather than moving with the ball, if that makes sense.
Well, that's an ambitious effort from distance. It really was a case of buying a lottery ticket from Scott Gunn. Way over the top. The Welsh captain is Adam Orme, and I think there Craig Pritchard was almost like a chess player, thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead.
He's got those invisible boots on again. Yeah, I was saying that, you know, for me, Wales, I think they've got the ability to keep the ball, to let the ball do the work rather than the players do the work.
There's an attempt on goal, comes out to Donnelly, scuffs it wide.
And I think that will start to show them some dividends if they can deploy that as this half moves on.
That's good defence by Wales, as you may have noticed. A wall of red shirts there in front of Lee Jones. Here's Adam Orme. 10 is Pritchard. Runners either side of Connor Rogers, but his ball forward breaks to the side in green. There's Rui. The feisty Donnelly. That's given away. Gunn gets it back. Here's Ryan Dabbs on his international debut. And he's at Cardiff University. So coming up against some players that he's very familiar with. Josh Dorwood, the only member of the Welsh squad here who represents Cardiff. That's out for a Welsh ball.
They have a good university programme there, Dave, as well, and as many as the Bucks institutions, the higher education institutions, which is the strongest area of futsal development throughout the UK, in fairness to them, and that's a programme that's gone from strength to strength. So many of these players will have started off within the higher education programme. Some of them are still in it, maybe not playing for their domestic institution clubs, but certainly getting experience week on week within that Bucks competition.
A couple of players getting there. First introduction to the court. Here's Gaz Emanuel, one of the recent arrivals. That'll be a Welsh ball. Number 2 here, Tyrrell Webb, will leave it, and then he's urged to come back and take it. Emanuel. Tyrrell Webb. Blocked again by Donnelly, who's had a Good long stint out there on the court, the Northern Irish #9, and cashes off the ball there with Emmanuel. There's Bright lifting it forward to Zulkarnain. Bright. Webb. This is good from Wales.
It's interesting. Zulkarnain is playing as some people will refer to it as the pivot or the forward player. So looking to be a player that will pin the defender and get the ball into him. And I don't understand why the Northern Ireland players just don't step on his shoulder and step in front of him and cut the passing line out, because he's playing so deep that they can't play the ball in behind. So again, this is a little bit about game understanding and game awareness as well.
It's a stinging shot from the Welsh #5, Gaz Emmanuel. No timeouts taken yet. That's something else that not touched on. Each side in each half of the contest can call a timeout, usually for tactical reasons. There's another attempt from distance by Zulkarnain, just over the top, and again wholesale changes. Yeah,
the tactical deployment of the timeout. Of course, each coach actually gets 2 timeouts in each half, because you've got the one the opponent's called as well. So that's again where the coach has got to be on their game, looking at what's going on and understanding what's going on, so that you don't lose that opportunity to impact the game when your opponent or your opposing coach has called their timeout.
Here's Josh Lowry. He's making his futsal debut for Northern Ireland, #14. Really good opportunity for the coaching staff just to have a look at 1 or 2 fresh faces. Although you can never call the Home Nations tournament a friendly international.
Oh, of course they are. Of course they are.
It's a weekend, I think, that all 4 sides are seeing as preparation for those important Euro qualifiers in January.
Do you know what's pleasing to see, Dave? For all nations, they've all got a little mix of young players within their squad, so they're clearly using it as an opportunity to see the players. Perhaps not so much about whether or not they can win the championship or not, more about trying to prepare themselves, as you say, but giving the opportunities to those younger developing players to see how they cope at that slightly higher level.
Oh, that was a lovely ball from Connor Miller, and Lee Jones comes out of his area, flattens Adam Barr, and the Welsh goalkeeper is going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Going to get a yellow card.
He was lucky with that. Was he the last man?
Well, almost certainly.
Christmas, benevolence.
I think the Welsh, rather the Irish skipper, Adam Barr, might just be making that same point. Of course, a lot of the advantage is gone. You get the free kick, but of course Wales can get all their bodies behind the ball, as they will do here. That's if Adam Barr's going to take it on.
What's interesting, look at the foul count. They're both on 3 each. That's quite low for this far into the game with both of these teams.
It seems more, doesn't it?
It does, certainly does.
Here is Barr, drills it in! Lovely strike, low right-footed equaliser from the Northern Ireland captain on the day he celebrates becoming their most capped futsal international. He celebrates with a stunning goal, an important goal to make it Northern Ireland 1, Wales 1.
Far be it for me to take anything away from that, because it was a superbly controlled strike, but the defence was very much like a calendar.
Yes, the wall certainly didn't do its job, did it? And now Northern Ireland, pepped by that equaliser, in truth an unexpected equaliser, come forward again, and Barr is everywhere at the moment, plays the ball across the face there, the Northern Irish #4. Oh, we're about to witness a sudden about turn here in the closing stages of this first half. Another interesting set-piece routine deployed by the side in green, but that came to nothing. Well caught on the sidelines by Johnny Michael, the Northern Irish head coach, who'll be a little happier than he was probably 30 seconds or so ago. So that reckless foul by goalkeeper Jones was ultimately punished. There's another opportunity. This is one of the 2 debutants for the side in green. Josh Lowry is, I think, taken a bit of a bump and a tumble. He's gone to ground. I don't think he knows which is hurting him most, his left ankle or his nose.
All of the above.
You've seen where the ball has come to rest here behind a kit bag behind the advertising boards. I don't think anybody's spotted where it's gone yet.
Go on, Dave. You can get there quick enough.
Souvenir for you there, Graham. They can't fight. Where is it? Where is it? Says Adam.
Where's it gone? Where's it gone?
Replacement ball. Odd that nobody went to throw it back to him on this side. Adam Barr across the face. Zulkarnain was back there, tracked back nicely, but I think the last touch came off John Gibson, the Northern Irish number 2, over the top.
I think certainly when we're nearly 15 minutes down here, and you look at the number of opportunities that each team have had, not particularly good as far as target is concerned. Both teams have not been that great defending.
There's an opportunity again for the side in red, but very nicely defended. And once again, there's mass appeals to the officials that there was a challenge there that was erring on the side of naughty, but nothing doing from the officials. Wales get the ball. Chris Bright, Zulkarnain. Nicely blocked, and on the break here comes Barr.
That's a great example there. Zulkarnain's put an appeal in. He's turned around and looked to the referee, and while he's done that, the game's moving on, and he's lost 4 or 5 metres on the player that he's chasing against Adam Barr. And in this game, you just can't afford to do that. The disappointment of something is one thing, but standing and remonstrating is another, because it costs your team.
It's the voice of Graham Dell, FA councillor, chairman of the FA Futsal Committee.
It makes me sound old, Dave, that. Don't say you are, either.
Northern Ireland knocking the ball around nicely here. 16 is Jordan Wilson. Again, a speculative attempt from distance. And that will, again, bring about a number of changes from Wales this time.
So back on 9, 8, 10, 14. It's the same. This is his strongest group, and I think they can stabilise with this group. There's a great amount to choose between them, and I would suggest that other 4, the other quad that he's playing with, is 1 or 2 of the older guard, and no disrespect to them, and I'm sure they won't thank me for saying it, but certainly Zulkarnain, as an example, been around a bit, so it's a new generation perhaps for them.
Stabbed just wide by Jordan Davis. 3 of the outfield 4, as we said earlier, play for the same club side. That's got to be an advantage, Graham, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you'd like to think so, although it's in a slightly different setting than the club environment, but certainly they'll have a bit more of an understanding of the way each other play. Because you're alluding to the team Cheshire that plays in the NF2 Div 2 North. At Cheshire, they've got a really strong culture in what they're trying to develop and what they're trying to bring through. So certainly for those players, they'll be used to the movement of each other, and that will give them an advantage.
And that said, there has been a couple of international weekends fairly recently. As we were saying, the Welsh were in Austria last month. They played some home matches against Estonia in September as well. So they've been pretty busy on the international front of late. Yeah,
and they'll be buoyed by, any game that a home nation can win against a Central European team or somebody out of the British Isles is going to be a fantastic effort, because they don't grow up smacking a big fluffy tennis ball against a load of walls like we do with half-sized football goals. Those countries that they're playing against, futsal is inbred in what they're doing. So any result that a country gets, and that result against Austria for Wales was a fantastic one, and to be highly commended.
Portugal are the European champions. Defeated Spain in the final of the last edition. Traditional futsal powerhouses, alongside the likes of the Italians. Of course, the game has its origins in South America, started in Uruguay, but Brazil, Argentina, indeed Colombia, 3 of the world's top 10 amongst the very best around.
It's interesting when you mention the Portugal, and you look at the model and you look at what they are either world or European champions in, whether it's an age group competition, futsal, male, female futsal, whether the Olympics, the Youth Olympics as an example, senior men. And it amazes me that even in our own country, we don't delve into what they're doing for developing players at a really young age. And everything is driven by futsal. Everything that the Portuguese do, whether it's beach soccer, football or futsal is the key core element.
We'll keep an eye on the foul count for you. 4 apiece at the moment. There's a shot on the swivel from Donnelly. One ball downfield, and that's going to be a Route 1 goal. Nicely taken by Jordan Davis. Lifted it over the keeper. The bounce of the ball was very kind indeed for the big striker. Out came Matt McAlane in the Northern Irish goal, and really it was just enough from Davis just to deflect it past him, and Wales have their lead restored. Northern Ireland 1, Wales 2.
And that's the game, end to end in the blink of an eye, the transition between defence and attack and back to defence again, and the counter-attack is absolutely vital.
Here come Northern Ireland once more. Donnelly, can he get his shot away? He can, it's blocked. Will be a Northern Irish ball. Just for a moment there was a glimmer of an opportunity there.
I'd have fancied him with a right foot strike as soon as he got the look at that, because I think the keeper was misplaced, but took the extra touch to cut inside and brought himself straight the way into a Welsh defender.
I've heard the phrase, obviously, with football so many times, he's a little bit one-footed. I guess this game, probably even more than the outdoor game, you really need to be adept with both feet.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you can get by as being a single-sided player, as it were, but you really do need to have two very good feet. But I think the important thing with this game is about the quality of execution of what you do. You know, whether it's a left or right foot, whether you're using both feet, whatever side of the pitch you're playing on, the important thing is that you deliver consistently and consistently well.
There's Jordan Davis, who's had a very decent first 16 or 17 minutes. That's rolled across to the Welsh skipper Orme and high over the top.
So think about that point that you've made, Dave, that, you know, a left and a right footer, this is a game for that. So surely for young players that are growing up, where we want them to become better footballers and better futsal players, this is the game that will give them that experience to become bilaterally developed, so that they're strong on the left and strong on the right as well.
Glenn Holmes, ball forward, is through to Lee Jones. Adam Orme. Craig Pritchard. Northern Ireland will make sure they don't concede a third. Oh, that's given away. Get themselves back in the game, and at 1-1 they're looking nicely in control, but once again they've been caught napping and gone behind. So from a coaching perspective, we're 2-1. We've got 3 minutes left on the clock. Both teams are on 4 fouls. So if I was Northern Ireland, I would be looking to run at Wales in order to invite the foul, to try and get the foul count up, so I can get closer to that 5th and then that 6th foul. So this comes down to player aptitude and coaching understanding about how can you use the constraints of the game in order to get you back in that game again. Fouls white clean at half-time. The team fouls go back to 0. Individual yellow cards, of course, remain. Danny Stapleton for Northern Ireland and the Welsh goalkeeper Lee Jones, both on a yellow card. And as in the outdoor game, second yellow card would mean expulsion.
Yeah, and of course if they get a second yellow in game 2, then that's them out of game 3. In a mini tournament format, of course, like this.
Trophy at stake come Sunday evening. Which of the 4 nations will be lifting it? Glenn Holmes, Scott Gunn. It's Chris Donnelly. That's a super ball, and it deserved a better finish. Lovely ball in from Donnelly. Conor Glenn Holmes plays his futsal up in Edinburgh. Just jabbed it wide from close range. Should have scored.
Wales caught napping a bit there, just watching players, or watching the ball rather than watching players, I should say.
Opened it up nicely, didn't he?
Certainly did.
You're enjoying our coverage, brought to you by BBC Sport. Here's another ram-raging burst down the left from Jordan Davis. I think he's on a hat-trick. The officials have him with the first 2 goals.
No steward's inquiry result from that yet.
I can only presume that the first goal, it went straight in and then
came back out again.
Came back out and was tapped in by Pritchard on the post. But certainly from our vantage point on the gantry, there were players in our line of fire. It did look as if it was Pritchard's goal, but Davis credited with 2. There's Rui. He's a big unit, isn't he? The number 21. Of course, futsal, a game for all shapes and sizes, and indeed the men and the women. We're going to have Hannah Marshall with us on commentary tomorrow. UEFA B coach, of course, and very much enjoy her company and commentary when she's able to join us. That looked like handball, but play allowed to go on. And again, Northern Ireland can break through Donnelly. Still no timeout. Is it in the interests of either side to?
No, I would suggest you're probably going to find Wales will use one in the next minute of clock time, probably just to try and imperceptibly run the clock down, but of course you don't because the clock stops. But it certainly breaks the format of the game up. But I was about to say Northern Ireland not causing them too much pressure at the moment, so if it was me, I would just carry on and keep going as we are, and then they nearly got a nick on goal there. But yeah, I would suggest one of them would probably try and call a timeout. For what purpose? I've got no idea.
Johnny Nelson to the number 3, Warren Hudson. Nelson again. Zulkarnain, as Graham was saying, one of the more experienced Welsh players. It's very much involved here a couple of years ago when the Welsh got a 2-2 draw in one of the games in a double-header against England. Played very well indeed. England won the second match, but narrowly. Always been fiercely competitive games between England and Wales, and that's the final game of the weekend, Sunday evening. But both sides have got work to do before we get to that stage where we can sort of call that as a tournament decider. Northern Ireland and Scotland would very much like to be in the mix. It's a hopeful ball forward. The clock almost down to the 1 minute mark as Jones bowls the ball out to Zulkarnain. A little bit of the unnecessary bite has gone out of the game. That's not to say they're both not spirited in their challenge and they're going in 100%, but it's just a little bit nasty and naughty.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
But spoke too soon.
You were saying? They must have heard you.
That's 5 fouls now committed by Wales.
There you go. So, but it's taken us nearly 2 minutes to get to that point, and you got a minute left to try and get the 6th foul that'll get you back in the game again. Going back to your point about the bite that's gone out of it, I also think both teams have lost a bit of invention, a bit of imagination. There's not much creativity going on. I'm struggling with both teams to see what the game plan is, to understand how they're trying to play and how they keep. Normally when you're trying to develop a game plan, you get to a certain point in your play and then it breaks down and you try and improve upon that. But everything seems a little bit unstructured from a purist point of view.
Free kick for Northern Ireland, drilled towards goal and caused some problems there for Lee Jones. I'm sure he'll...
That's an opportunity, Dave. That's a missed opportunity for the follow-up.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll feel he should have smothered that at source, but it ran free and there was nobody there. Another corner will ensue as this one's turned behind. We're inside the final minute of the first half. It's a little bit like American football, isn't it, where the last couple of minutes can almost last as long as you want if you take the timeouts and the ball goes out of play and you're very careful in your preparation for set plays. But now the ball is back in play and Wales slice it out. I was going to say they might want to just look and run down the clock here and go to the dressing rooms with a 1-goal advantage.
And indeed, that's been a challenge for the game, certainly around the world. We've seen lots of countries, lots of teams using the last 2 minutes really to try and kill the game, and it's lost the spectacle. So I expect to see a law change coming.
Good work by Nelson, and
probably during next summer after the World Cup, which will stop that from happening, because we need to make sure the game remains exciting right until the very end. Teams taking the time out with 10 seconds left on the clock. Well, what's the point? It serves no purpose other than perhaps for them.
The Welsh bench weren't happy there. I'll come back to that in a second. This has gone behind because it was a challenge again by Stapleton that they thought was a foul, and Stapleton's already been cautioned. It's going to be a Northern Irish corner. Again, the Welsh weren't too happy about that, but the officials have made their mind up, and again, like referees and officials all around the world, they're not going to change their mind just on the say-so of a player. Inside the final 30 seconds. Northern Ireland haven't created much from these corners. What can they do here? It's a nasty-looking fall there from Tyrrell Webb. Let's hope he's okay. In fact, it's
to use your
Warren
phrase, he's a big unit, so he's gonna fall with a thump there, which indeed he did.
I think we're going to need a fresh ball because that one's gone under the seats, away to our right.
We've lost 2 balls now in an indoor game.
From my commentary position up here in the gods, I can actually see them both. It's gone behind, and Wales will, I'm sure, look to eat up these final 25 seconds here. Hudson to Nelson, rolls it forward to Zulkarnen. Nicely defended by Adam Barr, who's had a good first half, scored Northern Ireland's goal to get them back on terms. 15 seconds. Lifted forward by Lee Jones. Well headed. Go out on the far side as Stapleton had to get away from his man, but lost his footing. We're right on the half-time buzzer here. And there it is. As Graham mentioned, it was a half that promised much, but didn't really get going. But it's given us a half-time score of Northern Ireland 1, Wales 2.
Yeah, I think that both teams, it's stagnated a bit. I think they need to come out. They need a bit of rejuvenation. I think that certainly looking at both teams as they're going off, they'll be, I would imagine, pretty dissatisfied with that. Wales happy probably with where the scoreline is at the moment in time, but not necessarily perhaps the way they played. And I think certainly when Paul Jones goes in, they're going to, I would expect them to come out with a bit of rejuvenation, or a lot of rejuvenation, but to try and get to that structured game plan, because as I mentioned in commentary, that from a purist, from a technical point of view, I can't see what either team's game plan is, and if I can't see it, I'm not so sure that they can necessarily see it. So I'd like to see both teams trying to keep the ball a bit longer, trying to make sure that they can play the ball forward, but trying to play with a bit more movement as well, because at the minute we've got a bit of five-a-side on the futsal pitch.
Jordan Davis with both goals for Wales. He opened the scoring with a stinging drive, which must have crossed the line, came out. Craig Pritchard put it in to make sure, but Davis credited with the goal. Back came Northern Ireland. Adam Barr winning his 23rd cap this evening for Northern Ireland. Their skipper, he got a nice equaliser from a free kick. I think Graham wasn't too complimentary of the Welsh wall at the time. Drilled it low and into the bottom corner past Lee Jones, who'd been cautioned for a reckless challenge coming out of his area, bringing down the Welsh striker. So that was 1-1 from the free kick. But then Jordan Davis, a long ball from Jones, pretty much route one, throw downfield, and Jordan Davis just anticipated the bounce better than the Northern Ireland keeper, McAlane, just prodded it past him and into the goal. We've got a half-time score here at St. George's Park, the opening match of the Futsal Home Nations weekend of Northern Ireland 1, Wales 2. England versus Scotland will follow later on, and there will be plenty to play for then. But in the meantime, it's the half-time interval here, and we'll be back shortly on the BBC Sport website and the red button for the second half, and we'll continue this match between Northern Ireland and Wales. Well, hello everybody and welcome back to St George's Park, where the two players or the two teams rather, just getting themselves ready to recommence battle. Northern Ireland 1, Wales 2 at half-time in the first match in this season's Home Nations Championship. A couple of goals credited to Jordan Davis for Wales, either side of a goal by the Northern Irish skipper Adam Bart. I'm Dave Bracegirdle, Graham Dell alongside me on the commentary gantry. We'll be underway in just a moment or two. We've been talking in the first half about lots of things, but also about the forthcoming UEFA Euro qualifiers in January. Northern Ireland, they're in a 4-team group. Matches will be played in Lithuania with the host country, Hungary and Turkey. England, of course, have played against Hungary fairly recently. And Wales are in a 3-team group hosted by North Macedonia, which also includes Norway. We're getting underway in just a moment. Bring Graham Dell in just a second for his thoughts, I guess, on what either side can do over the forthcoming moments. We'll be underway in just a moment. Northern Ireland in their traditional green with the ball. Wales in red, leading by 2-1. Here is Adam Bart. The ball breaks straight away to Davis, and the man on the hat-trick has an ambitious fly from distance, which goes well wide.
Yeah, absolutely, and be interesting to see in these first couple of minutes, excuse me, the statement of intent from both teams, and see how effective the half-time talk will have been, because both of them need to step up coming into the second half if they're going to go into tomorrow's games with 3 points behind them.
Nice footwork there from Stapleton for Northern Ireland, and then a lovely crossfield ball finds Ryan Dabbs. He's one of the two debutants in this Northern Ireland squad, and it really could have been an evening of high celebration. And he converted that, put it over. Don't think he had time to bring it down and apply a more composed finish. Had to take the opportunity as it presented itself, but just put it over the top.
I hadn't paid much attention to Northern Ireland's group, to be perfectly frank, but Lithuania, they'll be the hosts for the FIFA Futsal World Cup next summer, so that will certainly be an experience in January, because I'm sure that everything will be geared towards promoting the finals in that qualifying tournament. For
a dress rehearsal.
As a dress rehearsal, yeah, and Hungary certainly will not be sloppy. We know that from having played them earlier on or last month. So that's going to be a huge challenge for Northern Ireland. But you've got to go and pit yourself against these teams, because it's the only way that you get better, and it doesn't matter what the results are as long as you're learning.
Well, all the players, I think, there had reconciled themselves. And it was a Welsh corner, but the officials saw different again. Northern Ireland trying to create an opening here, and that's a very nice effort from Dabbs with the right foot. Show of faith given him by Johnny Michaels. Starting the second period with the debutant. As Davis gets his hat-trick. Oh, that's a lovely finish. That really is a high-quality finish. Prods it into the far corner, and now there's clear daylight between the two sides. Northern Ireland 1, Wales 3. Yeah,
good strong finish there. Again, poor defending. I think that's been an example of the goals that have come through. That yes, they've been little flashes of brilliance to try and create the space, but the defending's not been the best.
It's an emphatic finish. Just about to tell you that Wales have made a changing goal. When we get the opportunity, I'll just talk about the young man who's between the sticks. Here's an opportunity. Pritchard, bit of a live wire, goes on a surging run, and you can see his intention there, trying to pick out Adam Orme.
Mind you, Dave, it doesn't matter how good or bad they are, they all count the same, don't they?
There's Davis, really will be on a high, and he's got goal number 4 in his sights. It's a nice little, this is a break here, it's a nice little thing to be leading tournament scorer, and he's got off to a flying start. Yeah, the young man in goal for Wales, number 12, Charlie Philpott, made his debut in that 8-1 win against Austria last month, and as I mentioned earlier, he was only 17 at the time. He's since had his 18th birthday, played a long ball forward, which managed to evade everybody and went in.
Yeah, that's right. But for him, that will be a memory that will stay with him for the rest of his life, for sure.
He's after another one here. He's ventured downfield. Donnelly with another robust challenge. That's not the first time we've said that today. Here's Davis, definitely the man of the moment for the Welsh side.
It's interesting, and I mentioned it a couple of times in the first half, but Wales very much depending upon this four. But as you go through and you look in tournament play, and I'm not so sure that it will just be using this four to use a different four tomorrow night, but you can't rely upon one quad. You need to make sure that you've got strength in depth, and certainly all developing nations struggle with that.
Davis drills the ball towards goal, and then greedy for another opportunity, climbs high above everybody else and heads over the top. Looks a goal scorer, doesn't he? He's proved tonight he is a goal scorer, but everything about him is all about getting the opportunity, assessing where the goal is and having a go, and been very effective tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, this is about taking opportunities when they arise, and I think certainly when you look at Jordan Davis, he's a player who plays with confidence, certainly plays his domestic games with confidence, that's for sure.
Pritchard, cross field. That'll be an Irish ball. What do you expect to see from Northern Ireland now? They're 2 behind. Has the intensity got to increase? No,
I'm not so sure intensity increases. I think it's about retaining the ball, but retaining the ball as high up as you can and making sure that, I use a phrase, that you've got the door locks, that you've always got to make sure that if you lose possession, you've got somebody there to slow and deflect the attack when it comes back at you. But no, it's not about just increasing the tempo in order to get back in the game. It's about quality of pass, making sure that your pass is directional, e.g. forwards, retaining the ball and making Wales work to get the ball back again.
Here's Davis. It's a really nice intervention by Rui. Plays it forward to Donnelly. That'll be out on the far side. But an interesting piece this week about the Northern Ireland Futsal League and how cosmopolitan is. Players representing 23 different countries play in that. Reigning champions, of course, Sparta Belfast, but they've gone down the pecking order at the start of this season. Belfast United and Omar topping the table.
I mean, that's to be commended, the number of nations that are represented, because but of course the flip side of that is you're not developing your own players, and that's a challenge in all domestic competitions. That, you know, if for such a young modality of the game, if we want to get better, you need more and more players of your own nationality playing in your own domestic competition, with a smattering of foreign players, of course. But you're not going to get better internationally unless you can grow the domestic competition and get players playing at the highest level.
There's Glenn Holmes. He plays in Scotland. Plays that one forward. Donnelly and Connor Rogers. I'm sure they'll go for a drink later on tonight together, because they've not been parted, have they? Look, are we going to have a drink at the bar?
I think they might be inviting the referee. Maybe we should invite the referees for them, just to chaperone them. Yeah, I think, you know, this is about reaction. It's about game management with referees, and we don't want to be critical of referees, but because everything's working in a micro environment on a small pitch here, you've got to make sure you jump on it quickly.
Glenn Holmes to Donnelly. The back heel didn't pay off on that occasion. Nice intervention by Scott Gunn, the number 5. Rolls it out to Darius Rui. Livingston plays his futsal in Spain nowadays. Scott Gunn, he will lose out. Wales come forward again. Bond, storming run from Rogers. Very decent shift being put in by Glenn Holmes. He was the other half of the field there about 10 seconds earlier and got that one out just inside his own box.
I'd have liked to seen Connor Rogers, when he got in the corner there, rather than trying to drill the ball across as you would do conventionally in football into a crowded box where all you're going to do is lose and surrender possession, would be perhaps to put his foot on it and wait for a better passing option to retain possession and start his attack from the attacking third. The counter was strong, but given possession away really easily.
Davis.
That's an area where I think Wales can improve.
Wales look so much more threatening when Davis is on the field. It's the very definition, Graham, of a team game, isn't it? Because all 14 players getting a run out, getting court time. That's scuffed towards goal and then turned in. And Northern Ireland have reduced the gap. Nicely done, Scott Dunn. from Durham. Palatinets makes it 2-3.
Yeah, absolutely. As a team, you know, you miss a player or a player is out and you're down to 3 and 4v3 on the size of pitch that we're talking about, you get penalised heavily. It's a different game to 11-a-side, where if you have a couple of players that are perhaps injured or not involved in the play, you don't miss them so much, but you certainly do in this game.
Scott Gunn's reward is to be brought to the sidelines, but he's getting a pat on the back from most of his squad members down there. There's Zulkarnin. It's a challenging run.
I'm sure there's got to be something there, a shot from the gun or something like that. I thought you'd have come out with that, being the professional that you are. You'll be thinking about that for tomorrow. Yeah.
This one's lifted forward to Zulkarnin. Getting heckles from the co-commentator. This one turned.
You know you're in trouble then, don't you? No, I'm going to change the subject now. That little bit of movement from Zulkarnin and just where he moved and manipulated the ball. And if we think about the comparison between football and futsal, whereas we might in futsal, we're just trying to find literally 6, 7, 8, 12 inches of space. By comparison, in football, we might be having to find a metre. So actually, that little bit of ball movement will just about buy you enough space either to get a shot or a pass, or to give you an opportunity to move into a better position. So it's the little deft touches and the movement and the manipulation of the ball that are absolutely vital in this game, and that's a transferable skill into football, of course.
Just got to be careful, Wales, a little bit. They're playing one or two ambitious crossfield balls there. Notice the goalkeeper, Craig Philpott, had gone walkabout. Seems as if he wants to get involved as almost an auxiliary defender.
Yeah, no, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to play with a 5, so trying to bring the goalkeeper in and engage him so they can put the pressure onto Northern Ireland in their own half. But you need quality passes of the ball in order to do that, and I'm not convinced either team necessarily. In England in the same boat as well, not necessarily they've got that level of quality passing within their armoury to keep that possession against these opponents.
Craig Taylor just running out of room there. Plays for Belfast United. Zulkarnin.
I'm going to say it again, but Zulkarnin, he's being marked again from behind by Adam Barr. Again, all Barr needs to do is to cut that passing line, play on his shoulder and be able to step across him, and you'll stop the pass coming into him.
There's Barr. This is nicely done and a glorious goal. And Northern Ireland are level. Conor Miller with the left-footed strike really did pick the pocket of the Welsh defence there and delivered a superb finish. And we've very much got a game on here at St George's Park. It's Northern Ireland 3, Wales 3.
And again, it's this quad for Wales that is defensively not strong and conceding the goals for them, and it's opening it up for Northern Ireland.
Long ball forward to Zulkarnin. Surprised the officials didn't call a foul there. Just look at Adam Barr just geeing up his teammates there. Absolutely delighted, the Northern Irish skipper, at what's happening. Another question for you in a moment, which will come as no surprise. There'll be people watching this, and I will say, when Jordan Davies is on the field, Wales look far more threatening. When sides have got their strongest 4 on there, they look far more threatening. It's only 20 minutes, people will say. Why can't they leave players out there for the full duration?
There's going to be some more heckling coming, Dave.
Yeah,
but I'm going to look at myself here as well, and this is a
ball across the face there, and the goalkeeper's missed it. I know the answer that's coming. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, but
but look, this is a physically demanding game, and early days for these countries, they would struggle to have players that could stay on the pitch and give the quality of delivery that you need.
Northern Ireland here pressing for the first time in the match, really, to get their noses in front, and that was a decent effort from Craig Taylor that's been deflected over the top.
So staying on the pitch for longer than 2 minutes is an example. So trying to get court time and get the consistency of play with the aerobic capability that needed is really difficult. This is a different aerobic and anaerobic threshold that you're using compared to conventional football. So customising the players to the way in which the game's played is important, and it's really, I've only ever seen one player, and it's a Portuguese player, and I can't remember his name now, who stayed on a pitch for a whole game. But the demands are pretty high.
Another effort deflected behind. I knew that was the answer. I knew that's what
you
were saying.
I was going to say, if you and I went out there and had a run around, but I've looked at you and thought, we get to the bottom of the steps and we wouldn't get on again. We'd be exhausted getting that far.
I'm exhausted getting down this here ladder. Got a bit of a rickety old ladder getting us up on the gantry here. I say rickety with health and safety having
it's totally safe, totally safe. Yeah, the handrail. Yeah, no, you're probably looking to sight, and also you need players to be fresh as well. So it's not just the physical challenges that you face; it's then when the mental strength goes as well, and the ability to execute.
There's an opportunity for Wales to break with Zulkarnain. That shot's wide of the target. The game's taken a rather interesting twist since the interval with.
It's far from over, this one.
Yeah, with Northern Ireland coming back from a 3-1 deficit. That's nicely done by Craig Taylor. And goes to ground. The foul count, incidentally, the moment is 1 to Northern Ireland, none to Wales in this second half, which, again, perhaps you'd say is a little generous from the officials.
Yeah, they're trying not to peak too early, the officials. I think for me, both of these teams, that you got players trying to run with the ball as opposed to trying to make the ball do the work, and that was the point I made in the first half.
That's a good shot and a decent save. Again, perhaps it should have been held by the keeper, but fairly sure that Matt McAlane was well aware that he could parry it away to safety, knowing there wasn't a Welsh forward in poaching distance. That's a fairly good challenge from Connor Miller. Let's hope he's okay. Come down on his knee. They're just checking that he's okay. I think he is.
Might be a change here. Yeah.
Three apiece.
So if you look at, it'd be interesting to see at the end of the game the number of set plays that both teams have had, and the number of times they've actually managed to get a shot on target, because I would suggest that the number of set plays are pretty high, but the quality of the execution of that set play has been poor. And if both teams were able to work on that, I think they'd find that they'd get a lot more success from it, because they're certainly pressurising in order to get corners and kick-ins within the attacking third, but just not making anything of it.
Adam Barr down below as the Northern Ireland captain, having a well-deserved breather. There's Chris Donnelly, really is a handful. It'll be a Welsh ball. Again, 4-on-4 off for the side in red. Back come their strongest four, or their starting four, of Orme, Davis, Pritchard and Rogers. And there's Jordan Davis, scored all three of the Welsh goals. Welsh ball. Almost 8 minutes played in the second half. England versus Scotland to come. It's a stinging shot, and there was an opportunity there for Northern Ireland to spring Darius Rui away. Ball to him just slightly overhit from Donnelly. Don't think they were on the same wavelength there. Pritchard and Davis.
I was going to say
Northern Ireland ball.
Continent, I don't know about the same page.
A few more people have made their way into the arena, and noticeably wearing England shirts, and some youngsters there with England flags on the far side. Clash of the old enemy to come. But meanwhile, Wales restore their advantage. Davis,
Good
this
goal.
time the
Good
provider.
Goal.
Nicely done. Sets it up for Connor Rogers. Well-worked goal. Knife through butter stuff at the back there. And Wales regain their lead. Northern Ireland 3, Wales 4.
Yeah, nice bit of interchange play, and again, it's about direction, it's about quality of passing, and all of that joined up, and they got the just rewards for it. But again, we know Wales are vulnerable, having scored a goal, so we'll see what Northern Ireland come back with.
Again, all the Welsh goals have come when this quartet have been on the court. It's I guess that's the battle for the coaches, isn't it, to maintain a strong four out there at all times that are happy playing with each other, that will play to the system that's been implemented.
And that's the challenge, of course, to have that number of players that can do what you want them to do and have the abilities to do it. If they were that good, they wouldn't be playing futsal per se. They might say that they have a professional contract at a professional club, but it's always a challenge, and that's where you've got to try cast that dragnet in player recruitment and player development, that you do get two or three quads which are really, really good ball players, passers, understanding the game, and not a massive amount of daylight between each quad.
Headed away by Davis. It's very much been a case of 4 on, 4 off for Wales throughout this game. Very often you'll see futsal sides, they'll just ring the changes perhaps one at a time, Graham, won't they? One player off, one player on, but it's very much 4 on, 4 off for Wales. Yeah,
and I think you see that where you've got players that do have really strong squads, where there's not a lot of daylight between all of them. They have the ability just to swap the odd 1 or 2 players to keep the balance right. I think what I'd also like to see from all countries over the weekend is giving the kids, the youngsters that they brought into the squads, give them a chance. You know, don't just play with the same 2 quads each time. Let's have a look at some of the others, because they're only going to get better and improve by having the experience of playing at this level. And by the way, the difference between this level and where they'll step up to at the end of January in the Euro qualifiers is frightening. I mean, it's a massive step up again.
Glenn Holmes, John Gibson, going to be a Welsh ball. Yeah, you say that, let's have a good look at the youngsters, but you know as well as I do, when it's the home nations, when there's a trophy at the end of the weekend, when there's points at stake, both sides, in fact all 4 sides, they'll be desperate to win games, to get points, to get a good base ahead of the matches that are to come over the next couple of days. This one's wide.
They will for sure, and that's the mentality that everybody wants to win. Of course you want to win as a coach, but at the same time I think there's an onus of responsibility upon coaches and programs to realise in the early stages that it's development. We put a lot of investment from an England perspective into development in the early stages, and we were never happy to go and lose, but we lost a lot of games, but we learn out of every single one of those games, and that's borne dividends as time has moved on. And I think certainly when you're at the stage of development that all of these countries are, you need to get your player pool as big as you can and get as much experience to players as you can.
No extra time. If the clock runs out and we're level, it'll be a point apiece. Northern Ireland chasing the game for much of it. You might fancy that.
I'll be interested to see what Northern Ireland will be like in front. I think that would be add a different dimension to the game.
There's an opportunity here, and Davis is brought down by the Northern Ireland captain Adam Barr, who's going to be in trouble here. Jordan Davis not happy. Adam Barr gets the yellow card. That was always going to be coming his way. The only decision I think for the official was
what colour.
If he deemed it to be more severe, and certainly with Jordan Davis in his ear, it was clear what the Welsh forward was hoping would be delivered. Would really have spoilt Adam Barr's day. 4-3 was a good opportunity actually. Had he been able to get out of the grasps of the Northern Ireland captain, then Davis was away.
Not quite. Sorry, Dave, talking across you there. Not quite enough pace to do that, but I think had he have done so, I think the outcome would have been very different, of course.
Just over 10 minutes to go. Davis. Here's Adam Orme across the face, and that'll be turned in. Second goal in quick succession for the Welsh number 14, Connor Rogers. And once again, clear daylight between the 2 sides. Northern Ireland 3, Wales 5.
Same quad again, being the constructive quad that's offering the goals for them. Let's see, Northern Ireland, I think, let's see how tenacious they are. Because the game's not over, there's a long way to go yet.
Connor Miller, that's given away. They can't afford to do that. Squandering possession. Here's Pritchard on the charge forward. Nice little drag back. Ball did go out over on the far side, in front of the advertising boards. Wales 2 goals to the good. Jordan Davies, underside of the bar. Down. It's the second time at least that Wales have struck the frame of the goal.
They're quite happy to shoot from distance as well, aren't they?
Yep.
Which again I think is an indication of the defensive challenge that they've got, insofar as that it's not there, so they're seeing the openings and they're certainly getting the shots close enough to target. It's a challenge.
There's Glenn Holmes.
Just couldn't get it out of his feet then.
No, John Gibson plays for Banbridge, loses out here, and now on the overlap, here comes Wales. Pritchard, and that'll be stabbed in for the 4th. And that's a rat-a-tat-tat hat-trick from Connor Rogers in the space of around about 5 minutes there. And it's gone from 3-all with Northern Ireland very much in the game to a situation where it's run away from them very quickly. Wales lead by 6 goals to 3.
And they'll pay a bit of a price here now, Northern Ireland, because they've literally been run ragged for those 2 or 3 minutes end to end, and you can see it in the faces that 4 that have just come off, or 2 of the 4 that have come off, that they're struggling fitness-wise now. So they've got to get control of the game, keep the ball, as I said earlier on, make the ball do the work, and try and frustrate Wales to create an opening.
Matt McAlane, the Northern Ireland keeper. Here is Connor Rogers. Be a scrap over the match ball now, and 2 of the Welsh players have registered hat-tricks.
Which one? They're playing with the 3rd match ball.
I think so, yeah.
At least they've got 1 each. Nice
little touch from Pritchard down the left. Jordan Davies quickly closed down by Adam Bart.
Time-out coming for Northern Ireland.
8.5 minutes remain in the match. Wales led 2-1 at the break. Here's Davies.
In fairness to Johnny Michael there, I think some people might have taken that time out pretty quickly after the last goal went in, but he's taken a bit of time just to collect his thoughts, let the game crack on, and let's see what he's going to do.
So we'll have 60-second timeout called by Northern Ireland's head coach, Johnny Michael. Players gather around him. It's not long, but hopefully long enough for both sides to get the message across.
It's a long time when you're thinking about what to say on the spur, certainly if you haven't called the timeout. But no, look, this is an important interaction in the game. It's the ability for the coach to influence what's going on in the game. You don't get this in 11-a-side. Some coaches will use it to maximum effect. Other coaches won't know how to use the timeout. They just use it to talk to the players. And I think that's certainly a learning from around the world, is the effective use of the timeout is fundamental to game outcomes. And that's why, as a coach, as said in the first half commentary, you've really got to be on your game, because it's fine when you're in charge of that timeout and you know what you want to say to your players, but when you're not in charge of it and you're taking the opponent's timeout, are you influencing your players more about embedding what you were previously talking about, or are you trying to second guess what they're going to do? And you've got to try and deal with both of those issues.
So play about to restart. Wales with fairly healthy cushion here. Northern Ireland with the ball. Is Jordan Wilson.
So that's interesting, isn't it? He's now come on when they're 6-3 behind. He's one of the younger players. So, yeah, it would have been nice to have seen him a bit earlier on.
Fairly aimless ball forward that will need to be retrieved by the Welsh backup goalie, Charlie Philpott. Plays his futsal for Reading Royals. It's Tyrrell Webb. Zulkarnain perhaps feels he's missed out a little bit in the goal scoring stakes this evening. Rico Zulkarnain.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he's had too many clear chances. I think he's hit the crossbar once, but he certainly can create space to get a shot in.
The referee spotted an infringement there. Just under 8 minutes remain. Going to get back in this. Northern Ireland have certainly got to change the recent state of affairs, which has seen almost one-way traffic from left to right as we look at it. Foul committed there by Wales. 3 each now on the foul count in this second half.
Looks like Lowry on for the first. Is it Lowry for Northern Ireland for the first time? That's a debut as well for him.
I think he had a few seconds right at the end of the first half.
Must have been distracted.
Big thing, pulling on the shirt of your country.
Absolutely. I don't think it makes any difference what level it's at or what discipline you're at in sport. To play for your country is certainly if you're a sportsman, there's no greater accolade, and whatever level, you absolutely have to value it and take great pride in it.
I don't know when the players got here or arrived in England. I don't know if they were here to have a little bit of a practice session yesterday or the day before, but certainly I saw both team coaches arriving today in the almost palatial grounds of St. George's Park, and there are a lot of them outside taking photos and having the selfies with the St. George's Park sign. And as you will know, and anybody who's been here, there are some absolutely fabulous football pitches here. They're in pristine condition, and I know they were all looking round. And yeah, it's nice to make your debut in front of family and friends, but this is a nice little trip for the guys to come across and spend 3 days at St. George's Park, 3 or 4 days, and have a look round, and for the coaches as well to get the players together. A little bit of a team bonding exercise as well as the all-important stuff of playing the matches. Yeah,
absolutely. And for those, I think all of them came in yesterday, to be fair, but to come to St. George's Park, it's become an iconic venue in both football and now futsal. And to think at 1 minute, and I was around the FA when the blueprint for this was being done, and a number of people put a big red pen through the futsal hall and said, no, we don't need one of those. And it's actually become an iconic venue within the futsal, not just the futsal landscape, but the football landscape as well. So it's really pleasing to see that we can host it here, and the investment that the FA have put into St. George's Park, but also that players from other nations come here, and it's it becomes a little bit of a mecca for football in the UK, or sorry, for futsal in the UK.
Been open 7 years now, St. George's Park. October 2012, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge officially opened it.
And what a success it's been, Dave, as well.
Sort of only the last 2.5, 3 years, it's become the futsal centre that we know nowadays. So this is now 5 fouls committed by Wales, and there's still the best part of 7 minutes left. They got to this point in the first half, I think, with only about a minute left, didn't they? So let's
they did. And that's 7 minutes. That's a long time scale. That's a long way to go. But yeah,
and again, Graham, the importance of that is.
Well, the importance of that is that you've got to be careful about what you're doing, because from a Welsh perspective, they're going to be pressured by Northern Ireland because they wouldn't get back in the game, and they just can't afford to give fouls away, because if you think about it, they've only got to give 3 fouls away in the next 7 minutes, and that's more than likely to happen. And then you'll get the 10-metre penalty, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on and so forth. And if Northern Ireland are clinical in that penalty, they can get themselves straight back in the game again.
So to recap, the next Wales foul that goes against them will be penalised by effectively a penalty kick.
Provided it's one of the penal fouls. Yeah. So provided it's a penal foul, e.g. punishable by a direct free kick, then that would be an automatic 10-metre penalty, irrespective of where the offence took place. And that's the concept of the laws of the game, about trying to bring fair play into it. So if you get a team that's massively in front of the opponent, and the opponent tries to get back in the game but they keep being fouled off, all of a sudden you become limited in how many fouls you can give away, because you're giving away that 10-metre penalty every time. And I've seen games where 6 or 7 10-metre penalties have been given, and teams have come straight back into the game and won them.
I guess if you're trying to equate it or compare it to other sports, the basketball fouling situation would be a similar.
Yeah. It's a court sport again, isn't it? Yeah.
So Wales leading 6-3. Got the ball in the Northern Ireland half, looking to add to that advantage. There's Chris Bright. Not seeing too much game time. Plays it across the face, and Northern Ireland get the ball and quick to increase the tempo, try and get it in the other half of the field, but Wales have got all 4 outfield players behind the ball. Scott Gunn, who scored one of those goals earlier to bring it back to 3-all.
One of the challenges for Northern Ireland is that the passing lines are not being created by the players that don't have the ball, and this is certainly something that we rate within the coaching framework. That this is not a game about the player who's got the ball. This is a game about the 4 players who don't have the ball, creating the passing lines, allowing the player who's got the ball the easy selection of when to pass the feet, when to pass the space, when to run with the ball or when to pass the ball. And all of those opportunities are created by the players who don't have the ball. And that's a bit where Northern Ireland are struggling at the moment.
Effort there from Adam Barr goes well wide. And we're getting to the sort of time yet where Northern Ireland might consider employing the fly goalkeeper, which is the next thing I'm going to get you to talk about. Now.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, to be fair,
is Wales pressing once again, Graham? Sorry to interrupt. Here's Scott Gunn, and he's going to clear his lines.
Yeah, look, to be fair, and I think Northern Ireland would say that they're at the stage where yes, they could fly. I think that as a team you've got to learn to play without the fly, because there are some teams that just play with the fly and they have no imagination other than that. But yeah, in a tournament play like this, I mean, now 6-3. They're not creating that many chances now in the second half, so maybe to play with the fly would give them a slightly better opportunity. I'll elaborate on that when this phase of play's gone.
There's Conor Miller. Worked hard for little reward for Northern Ireland. Got their 3rd goal. It's played aimlessly forward and out.
So the fly, as you call it, the power play, means that the team can bring an additional outfield player on to substitute the goalkeeper. It's a temporary substitution. So the player can come on, but if it's an outfield player, they must wear a jersey that's the same colour as the goalkeeper's conventional jersey, but it must have the outfield player's number on it. So if it was, for argument's sake, player 21 for Northern Ireland, they've got to wear a goalkeeper top with 21 on the back, and therefore it gives you 5 outfield players on the pitch. That player has the same privileges as the goalkeeper, so they can act as a goalkeeper within the D. They can use their hands, but they must operate as a goalkeeper as well. Why do teams use it? Teams use it generally because they don't have a goalkeeper with the sufficient footwork qualities of an outfield player, but that's changing in world futsal because goalkeepers are becoming more adept, and in many cases some of them are better with their feet than the outfield players are. But what it allows you to do is to play with a full court press, to play 5 against 4 in the opponent's half.
This is drilled towards goal, parried away by the Northern Ireland goalkeeper. You might have noticed there the Welsh number 15 is on for the first time in the match, Josh Dorwood, and he's the only representative of the Cardiff University side in the Welsh lineup. Oh, that's a lovely shot. 7-3. Absolutely stunning strike there from Alex McDowell. Fires it in to extend the gap even further. It's Northern Ireland 3, Wales 7.
And where we are in that commentary position, directly behind that strike, I think that emphasises the fact that you've only got 4 or 5 inches. Once that space opens up and you get a strike on, you've got every chance of scoring.
It was a cleanly hit effort from McDowell. Plays for Club Cardiff as opposed to the university side. He did take that very, very nicely into the top corner. Postage stamp, as they say. All to do for the side in green.
So that can become a bit of a risk as well if Northern Ireland start to take shots from just in the halfway line. You know, the goal is 1/3 of the size of a normal football goal. The goalkeeper is probably the same size. The chances of success over that distance is pretty limited. So for me, they just need to concentrate on maintaining possession, getting the ball in and around the opponent's D in the attacking third, and try and create something.
So Alex McDowell on the score sheet, adding to hat-tricks from Jordan Davis and Connor Rogers. There's Miller. A decent effort, forcing the save, and then drilled back towards the target from Ryan Dabbs, but wide of the mark. Barr, Gunn and Miller, the Northern Ireland scorers. It's the opening match of the Home Nations weekend. England versus Scotland to come. 8 o'clock kickoff, local time. Dorwood.
It's interesting because watching the game, I'm trying to make up in my own mind about how would I play if I was the coach of an opponent against either team. And I think for me, we're playing against Northern Ireland. from a Wales perspective, I would be looking for that forward player to stretch the play as much as they can and open the space in front of them to allow the players to run with the ball and keep possession rather than longer passes that are not necessarily being retained. And conversely, from a Northern Ireland perspective, looking for them just to try and pass the ball more.
Nelson unable to get the ball cleanly as he surged forward. Oh, that's a uncharacteristic error there from Craig Taylor. Going to be, again, a change to the strongest Welsh quartet. And here is Jordan Davies, and 3 seconds after leaving the bench, he's having another shot at goal, but this time well wide.
He's got a smile on his face, that's what's important.
He should have, he's played well. He's looked a threat. And Conor Rogers with 3 goals as well. And can he get a 4th? And he sets it up selflessly for Pritchard. And that's a terrific team goal. And all 4 of them were involved there. From one end to the other, pass, pass, pass. Neat, clinical passing, and a lovely finish from Craig Pritchard. And it's Northern Ireland 3, Wales 8.
And demonstrates how dangerous the game is, that, you know, sloppy passing, if you give the ball away, you're going to get punished. And the counter-attack in this game is absolutely vital. The transition between defence to attack, trying to make sure that you do it with direction, with pace and good quality passing, which Wales have demonstrated on about 3 occasions now, is the difference between the 2 teams for sure.
Josh Lowry. Scott Gunn. There's an opportunity. Oh, he's unlucky there. He's hit the post. And Glenn Holmes trying to reduce the deficit. Strikes the frame of the goal. There's Pritchard, and he's brought down by Glenn Holmes. He's unlucky there. Perhaps deserves to get on the score sheet, but you don't necessarily always get what you deserve in sport. Conor Rogers. Craig Pritchard just lifts that one forward, but runs out of court space.
I think the other thing in the second half here for Wales is that, and I mentioned at the end of the first half, I wanted to see more movement from them, and they certainly demonstrated that. And playing the ball and moving is what futsal's about. It's a displacement theory versus conventional five-a-side that we might know in the UK, where you play the ball and then you stand in your fixed position. And certainly Wales have created far more displacement, far more movement in the second half, and they've got the rewards.
Rogers, ooh, was he going for goal, or was he trying to tee up Davis? Either
I think
way.
he was going for goal.
Either way, it didn't quite come off. Bowl out by Northern Ireland keeper, who's just come on for his first game time, and is beaten again by Pritchard, who's got his second goal of the evening, and Wales are running away with it now, 9-3.
Yeah, they are, and in fairness, I think the result so far is a reflection of the game and the way that the game's gone. But Northern Ireland just need to try and consolidate a bit here. Look forward now to tomorrow night. Try and work on just retaining that ball, and that's a common theme I keep saying about them. But they're certainly going to need that in tomorrow night's game.
There's Pritchard. Yeah, you were talking earlier about, well, just then, about pass and move. It's not just give and go, is it? The traditional football.
No, not at all.
Phraseology from the training ground. Give and go, give and go.
And from the spaces that you've got, you'll give it, but you might not necessarily get it back again. And the important thing about the movement is dragging the opponent away to create the space for the player with the ball. It's back to that point again about the 4 players without the ball rather than the player with the ball. So the movement is absolutely key. And the 2 are intrinsically linked: passing, movement, control, key elements.
Breaks down for Wales, and Northern Ireland rampaging run forward from Conor Glenn Holmes, and his effort wide of the mark.
So if you go back to where we were 4 and a bit minutes ago of clock time, 7 minutes with 5 fouls on the clock, we've still got 5 fouls on the board. You've still got 5 fouls on the board. So no pressure from Northern Ireland to try and get back in the game by running the ball at Wales.
Just under 2 minutes, the result a foregone conclusion, but I think 1 or 2 of certainly this Welsh quartet will be looking to add to their goal tally. Adam Orme, beg your pardon, the skipper, the only one of this quartet not to get on the score sheet. 3 for Jordan Davis, 3 for Connor Rogers and 2 for Craig Pritchard. Alex McDowell with the other goal. Nice ball forward for Donnelly. That's bounced off his chest. Here's Orme to Rogers. Skillfully holds the ball up and is then charged off it by Scott Gunn, and it will be a Wales ball. And now Northern Ireland on 5 fouls as well, and a yellow card as well for Scott Gunn.
Well, I would have thought that, and again, I'm looking from a development point of view and I'm looking from a technical point of view, and I'm looking at the result 9-3, asking myself the question, why are Wales not using the full breadth of the squad that they've got to give those younger players an opportunity? And I'm sure that that's not being critical of Paul Jones at all. I'm sure he's got a rationale behind that, but you know, these are the type of games where we can use more and younger players to give them that opportunity.
Sulkanen sizing up a free hit here. He's drilled that very firmly into the two-man wall, and Johnny Nelson showing the after effects. Beg your pardon, wrong number 7, Conor Glenholmes, of course.
I didn't want to say anything because you're the professional.
No. Stop saying that. Welsh ball. Minute and 24 remain, as you can see for yourself, the top left-hand corner of the screen. If you're new to the sport, hope you've enjoyed the coverage of this match. Oh, that's just wide. That was a decent effort with the left peg of Tyrrell Webb. And don't forget, coming up in just over an hour, England playing Wales, playing Scotland rather, the old enemy. What are you pointing at, Graham?
No, I was just pointing at the little tussle going on there between Chris Donnelly up front for Northern Ireland and against Warren Hudson for Wales, and the arms all over each other. But just going back to the point you made there about Tyrrell, I quite like Tyrrell Webb with the stature that he's got. But I think he under-delivers. I think he could have done a bit more in this game. I think he's got good stature. He's got good balance. He's able to get a shot off pretty quickly. But I just think he doesn't quite do enough for me. But I like him as a player.
It's the number 2 on the near side. Another of the Cardiff-based players. Here he is. Oh, he's into trouble there. But
see, he's strong on the ball, and that's important in this game as well. And it's all about balance. It's not often that he loses the ball with possession.
Yeah, he was almost forced into taking a heavy touch there. Otherwise, was in danger of running into the Northern Ireland player. We're inside now the final minute of this contest. Not been a contest really for the last 10 minutes or so. Northern Ireland very much in it at 3-3. Since then, Wales have just gone through the gears. Can they add to their 9-3 advantage in the closing seconds here? It's a fairly ambitious ball forward.
Lofty.
Yeah, more people coming in, Graham, which is good to see.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, listen, it's a Friday night. It's St George's Park, and I wouldn't expect that we would have necessarily a full house tonight. But I think it'd be a different picture tomorrow night and Sunday, as you mentioned earlier on.
If you're in the area and you've enjoyed what you've seen, remember more games tomorrow and indeed on Sunday as Donnelly tries a snapshot. It's blocked. Sure, he'd love to get on the score sheet. Well, as without saying, he'd love to get on the score sheet. He's worked hard and tenacious. Chris Donnelly.
He's impressed me tonight as well. Lee Jones, you mentioned him earlier on in commentary, but the Welsh goalkeeper. I mean, he's only a young lad, but he plays with good stature, and he's very responsive and reactive. He's made some important saves for Wales as well, but just goes about his business in a quiet, unassuming way. And important that we recognise and identify that for these young players.
Here's Philpott. Lifts that one forward. Goes through to the Northern Ireland backup keeper. And there is the full-time buzzer It's been fairly comfortable in terms of the scoreboard. Wales running out 9-3 winners, but it wasn't always that way. Northern Ireland conceded first, drew level at 1-1, had some decent moments before Wales regained the advantage, 2-1 up at the break. Second half, 3-1 to Wales. You wondered if it was going to be done and dusted then, but back came Northern Ireland with a couple of goals. And it was only really when they were possibly in danger of going behind for the first time that Wales turned it on, clear what their strongest outfield quartet is, and they delivered the goods. A hat-trick for Jordan Davies, a hat-trick for Connor Rogers, and in the end, Wales running out comfortable winners.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to correct something I said in commentary there, I was talking about Charlie Philpott rather than Lee Jones at the back end with the goalkeepers. But yeah, look, I think I think the result is fair. I think both teams will go away. They will reappraise. They will look at what they've got. Both teams will recognise against their respective opponents tomorrow in England and Scotland. They will need to do a lot more. They will need to regroup. They will need to look at the game plan. They will need to make sure that they get well rested, because both teams have relied upon 8 players out of the 14. Largely, Wales certainly relied upon a much stronger quartet in the quartet that they had, which produced all of the goals. And tomorrow will be a very, very different game again. So I think that they will, certainly from a Wales point of view, they will be pleased with the performance. A lot more to do. From Northern Ireland, there's a lot of thinking that's got to go into what they're doing. Young teams, certainly by looking at one or two of the faces, need to get the game plan together and understand about how they're going to go about winning games. I think that's an important point. But tomorrow's a different day, and futsal is very much about that. You've got to park these games now and move on to the next one.
Last match of the weekend will be England against Wales. We've said there's a lot of futsal to be played before then, but a lot of people just thinking that might just be the one that it all comes down to, the decider, the shootout. You see a lot of England, Graham. Is this Welsh side good enough to take them on and beat them here? Look,
I think the game, and as you say, I know well enough. I've been on the end of a few defeats myself and not so many victories, but the game can twist and change at any time during the play because of all the constraints of the game that come into play. I would suggest possibly on paper England will be too strong for Wales, but we would never underestimate them in any way, shape or form. I think for me the key element will be about organisation, it will be about structure, it will be about game plan. But looking at that game, certainly, and without seeing Scotland, I would suggest that Wales will be the #1 competitor for England as this tournament moves on. But the game will ebb and can ebb and flow in different directions, and certainly England have to be cautious. They have to make sure that they're disciplined. And against Wales, I mean, I'd have my own mindset how I would play about them, but I'm not the coach, and I'm sure Mike will have seen some of that. He'll certainly, I know for a fact, he will watch that tomorrow morning, and he will come up with his own game plan to determine the best way to play against Wales. But I think the other point that's important here is that with developing nations, there's no guarantee that you get 2 performances that are equal back to back. So Wales may well come with a very different game plan tomorrow, as indeed Northern Ireland would do. What's important is that each team looks after its own particular style and pattern of play. It looks after its game plan, and it aims to deliver that in a way that will give them a positive outcome. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what the opposition throws at you, you're going to be stronger.
Interesting looking at the reaction of the two sides. Wales not overly celebrating. They know it's part 1 of a trilogy. 2 matches to come. Northern Ireland, they're bitterly disappointed. They know there's more to come from them. But that is the end of the first game here at St George's Park. It's run out a comfortable victory for Wales, defeating Northern Ireland by 9 goals to 3. These two sides can go back and rest and prepare for their endeavours tomorrow. Meanwhile, up and coming, around about 1 hour from now, it's England versus Scotland. Hope you'll join us on the BBC Sport website and on the red button for that one. England versus Scotland coming up at 8 o'clock.